let's do some troubleshooting to show only checked out tools. So the user request is, I have a tool control spreadsheet where the tools go out and come back. They're checked out and they're returned. I'd like to add a tab to show the tools that are currently checked out. But when I try to pull this data, it doesn't show the latest record. Instead, it shows all the records for that tool. So here in their spreadsheet, let me run through the tabs that they have. They have Retiradas, which is checkouts, DEVOLUCOES, which is returns, and then they're using this acompañamiento, which is the comparison sheet. Okay? So here in returns, this is all in Portuguese, but I'm going to run through it for English, right? So here in the checkout or the rented, it shows the ID for the tools, and these are all from their full stock list. So the tool ID, the name of each tool, who's rented it out, what date they rented it out. That's the important data for this. Here in the returns, it's the same data, ID, tool name, who rented it out, and then the date that it was returned. Okay, so we have the date checked out, and we have the date returned. Those are the two things that we really need to compare, or rather, we need to show everything from the checkouts that is not on the returns. And the formula that the user currently has is this filter formula using count if, subtracting from each other, right? And the challenge with this one is it's actually showing all of them. So here, the person is Wellington and Wellington, different dates, and the names are capital and lowercase, right? But if I go back to Retiradas, that's this line and this line. And on DEVOLUCOES, it's this line and not this line. So what we actually want to see is a single return, because this one and this one were returned. What we want is a single row returned, that's this one here. Okay? Now, I've already made a copy to build out my formula. There's some intense logic going on here, so follow me here. I'm using the let function to declare three variables, and then, or three, it calls them value expressions, names and value expressions. I'm going to call them variables. I'm declaring three variables, and then I'm doing something with that variable, with those variables. One of the cool things, I think, in the let function is that you can actually use the declared expressions in a later expression. So, the three expressions I'm doing is one called ret, one called dev, and one called compare. The ret name, the ret expression, is joining each row of Retiradas. So let me show you what that looks like. Let me do this in another sheet right here. Okay, so now I have a single line that is everything in the entire row. I'm doing the same thing with the DEVOLUCOES sheet. And I can show you that as well. Okay, so I have, let me move this over. I have one formula that is joining together every cell in each row of the Retiradas sheet, the checkout sheet, and another doing the same thing for the returns sheet. Then I'm comparing them. And in that comparison, I'm actually comparing RET to DEV, these that were defined previously. So that's where I'm saying I think let is really cool, that it allows you to use the declarations you made, the variables created in a later variable. Okay, let me show what that looks like. So this one, I'm going to need to fudge stuff to make it work, but that's fine. So I'm going to map through A1 through A3, and I'm going to compare that to F1 through F2. So here's where I put RET, here's where I put DEV. Now if I do that, so what this is doing is it is checking exact, which looks for identicalness in strings. A lot of the other functions don't do this because they're case insensitive. So in those cases, this is equivalent to this. I don't want that. I only want them to be equivalent if they are identical, because the only thing different between this row and this row, other than the date rented, is the renter name is in capital or lowercase. So we actually need to be case sensitive for this to work properly. Okay? So what it then does is it literally loops through this row looking at both of these rows, and then this row, this cell, sorry, looking at both of these cells, and then this cell looking through both of these cells. And if there's an exact match, it will bring all the trues together into a single one. If there is no match, it will return a 0. This is great because 1 and 0 evaluate as true and false in a filter formula. So the final function that I'm using is a filter function filtering all of columns A through D of the RETIRADAS sheet, where the compare variable is 0. Or in other words, when there is no value in DEVOLUCOES that has a matching value in RETIRADAS, or where there is a row in RETIRADAS that does not have a corresponding value in DEVOLUCOES. I think that's the better way to say it. So that's how this is working. It's using the let function to declare 2 variables, then using those 2 variables in a third variable, and finally using that third variable in a filter function to get the correct data from the first sheet.